I clicked to try and I clicked to try and make us get live while he was saying that, and it didn't start quick enough, unfortunately. So we missed that gem from Nicola. We missed it. Vilas, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. Here we are once again, and I thought the main thrust of this evening's and this is reference to Nicola there, but the main thrust of this evening's chat was going to be the abuse of magpies. But the Civil Aviation Authority has gifted us a better storyline today. It's they give with one hand and they take with another. The taking part. Hello there, Dan. The taking part will go for first. They are now. Which part is it wanting? It's the registration, isn't it? It's the registration that they mentioned.
Yes.
And they want people that fly control line. Control line will now have to register as well.
But also it's his competency, a proof of competency thing. You'll have to sit a test to make sure you know what you're doing before you're allowed to fly control line. That sounds very sensible to me. The carnage that these control line models can produce is beyond belief.
Well,
stand in a center point and go round and round and round. I've never understood control line myself personally, other than it goes round and round and round, very fast and very noisy.
Well, it can go,
we discussed earlier, didn't we, Gary? I think the problem is that there's been a lot of people doing BV loss control line.
Yeah,
this is where
that's right. Yeah.
This is where the concerns are coming in from the regulators. They are deeply concerned.
Well, if you think about it, as you go around, 14 kilometers of line going round, I mean, you can go through a lot of power lines, a lot of trees, and a lot of other stuff. What's it? No, seven kilometers, isn't it, for DJI? So it'd be okay. So it'd be 7Ks that way, 7Ks, 14 kilometers across, isn't it? So yes, it can do an awful lot. But funnily enough, pull up a sandbag at night. That's exactly how they used to fly British Army balloons on autopilot. If they will, they just drop a rope down over the side until it was just buoyant with a little bit of it dragging on the ground, and they used to drag through power lines and phone lines and all that sort of thing on an autopilot. But anyway, control line cruise missiles, as John says. It's just mad. What would 10-year-old me have done for competency? I was dreadful with control lines with 1 or 1.5 cc diesel engines on the front.
As I get older, I find incompetence is not as worrying as incontinence.
Yeah, quite so. But it's just talk about over-regulation. I mean...
Well, what's interesting as well, there used to be CAP 658, and you may not have heard of it, Bruce, but Gary, you've probably heard of CAP 658. Now, there used to be a piece in there about control line. They used to have it, and they just... Of course, when they decided everything goes to CAP 7.2, all the hobby side of stuff just disappeared. You can't even get CAP 658 now on the CA website.
Yeah,
it's gone.
It's funny how things are being dragged in, but control line, my word, that just beggars belief.
So there's 33-ish thousand members of the BMFA, for example. How many of them actually fly control line? What, 1,000, if that? Maybe.
Well, can you get those little Cox things with the 049 motors, and they had the plastic? What's that PT? Whatever trainer, low wing trainer, that was the one that they always had, and there was a Stuka, wasn't there, as well? And they were plastic aircraft with the 049
Cox ones
on the front. Yeah, do they still exist? Because that would have been it.
I've seen some on eBay. I don't think they still make them, but they were brilliant. They flew through centrifugal force only, nothing to do with aerodynamics.
And the raw power of the 049 engine, which I only just really got. I got one of those not many years ago. I always wanted one of those, and I got the motor, but not the plane. There they are.
I've stayed away from control line. It's just. A lot of clubs don't allow them because they are so noisy. You know, they are.
The Cox PT19 control line trainer. So I reckon that would have been the bulk of it in the evening peppermint pilot. That would have been the bulk of it in the 70s. and then a few people bought the 1cc diesel. Then you smashed loads of those up, and you gave up, and then you got some gliders and chucked them off a hill.
Can you share the image just so people have an idea, Gary?
I will look for the
If
image.
you've got one. Just
Control line was a lot bigger in the USA than it was in most other places around the world. But it was great because I was more of a free flight guy, but I did fly control line because it meant you could fly in smaller spaces without risk of losing your model. So you could fly at the park, you could fly. In fact, we had a big empty field behind the house. I could fly in that big empty field. The only downside of control line was that it took 2 people because someone had to release the model until I built the little thing where you pull the string and it releases the tail hook and it just noses over. But yeah, and there are many, many different aspects to control line because combat, well, I used to like flying control line combat. That's quite a challenging thing. The fact that you can have 2 people operating in close proximity with things on the end of strings and you don't get the lines tangled for a start. That's quite amazing. Never got into control line stunt or control line speed though, but yeah, it was a great part of the hobby. It was called U Control in the USA.
It was indeed, and that was it. These were in toy shops everywhere, and you know, in the 70s, being 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I wanted one. That's what I wanted. I wanted one, and of course could never ever afford one. Evening to you, Louis. We're just talking about the fact that the UK is asking for registration of control line flyers now. Control line as well. I bet you even had one of these, didn't you, Louis? Or something like it.
I did. I had the P40. The one that had the teeth, the shark teeth, was made of plastic. The full would melt and destroy the plastic.
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
And let's just say that it didn't fly many times.
Well, they are clearly a menace to society, to the industry, to commercial flying, to everything really. And I, for one, am very glad that the Civil Aviation Authority has decided to get hold of this problem and shake it hard into submission.
Yeah, and I'm just reading. It says competency requirements. They're going to institute competency requirements. So you're going to have to pass a test, probably an online test. What is a circle? Things like that. Really important stuff.
You are flying in a square field.
How dare
Is
you?
it possible? Yes.
What's really bizarre then, and this is what I find slightly bizarre. So if you're flying a racing drone in the middle of nowhere, you can just go and fly now because if it's below 50 meters. So does control line fly higher than 50 meters?
If you've got 60-meter lines, it will.
Yeah.
But don't forget also you can't just, you've got to have
is that the push me pull dual one, or is that the?
No, if you're flying FPV, you've got to have a spotter though. Remember, don't forget that. Otherwise, people will die.
Yeah. So this,
I really agree with CAA because putting one of these to work when they really don't have the will to work, it's very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. So
I had my dad had a sawhorse, and I just used to put my motors on the end of the sawhorse and run them for hours on the sawhorse in the garage.
And the neighbours loved you.
Oh yeah.
But they're only about 65 watts equivalent of electric. 65 watts. It's virtually nothing in terms of danger.
They still I still have the original plug.
That's proper stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong. The BMFA Nationals every year, they have a great control line turnout. You see some great flying of things going around in circles. If that's your thing,
flying.
Well,
I say bring on license and proficiency tests.
You know what's going to happen when they have the team racing events now. Every time someone pits, you'll have to show your license to show you're allowed to fly it again.
What about electric round the pole? Indoor electric round the pole? I don't think that's been regulated enough either.
Well, indoors out the CAA's remit, so we're safe. It's the HSE that will come for us there.
Isn't it also included kites? Those baby kites that you have a string and you send messages to the kite with the string. Don't they have a license for that too? Because that's also has a communications mean between the pilot and the kite. So you would put some papers and wait for it, and you would blow on the paper. Come on, we've all seen that.
So here's a question then. When are they going to start giving out wanting operator IDs for stunt kites? You know, the twin line, the ultra powerful stunt kites. When are they going to start wanting them licensing?
What about those surf kites? You know, the ones who had a surfboard out there and they have the kite and they scoot across the water. Those must need regulation. Oh no, they'd be an ultralight, so it doesn't matter.
No, paramotors, that kind of stuff, that's completely unregulated here.
Yeah. Most of the places it is. You just.
But control lines.
Get regulated.
No. You just come on. If we start flying the drones from the top of a cliff and throw down the drone down the cliff and hope it flies, I think that's approved.
It's called a test glide, Louis.
Yeah.
Best
No, that's insanity. So that's the taking away, and the giving is in the same document today. They're going to get rid of, in the UK, it's going to ignore the European requirements for remote ID and just ignore it.
No, I don't think it is. I read that document, and it removes the need to establish and keep an up-to-date list of the maintenance staff employed by the operator to carry out maintenance activities and ensure that individual aircraft are installed with a green flashing light and up-to-date remote ID. So it's just removing the need to keep a list of the staff that maintain that. So remote ID is still in there, I think.
I think it is as well. But I think what it is doing is it's giving them wiggle room to move to one system or another a bit more. I think that's what they're going to do. And now that system might be proper electronic conspicuity, perhaps within
because that's exactly what pilots need, more workload in the cockpit.
Yeah, well, so I'm not too against fitting stuff if it is for safety in airspace that requires it. So if you're flying at the fence of Heathrow, then that controller needs to know. But if you're flying miles away in the country, nobody needs to know.
Yeah, but the people at the FAA said they're not going to be tracking, and they're not going to have onboard detection equipment in aircraft for the remote ID because it would put too much workload on the pilot and reduce their situational awareness. So how can that be different in just because it's in the EU or in the UK?
No, it's not in the UK. No, I think they might need something. It's a good idea to have electronic conspicuity at the airfield. Perhaps if your airframe is over there, just pull a number out of the air, 5 kilos in weight or something. I can see something like that, or as an extended fixed wing flight that's going to be in the area for 2 hours or something. I can see that.
There's a problem. We're not granular enough. We say drones are drones. It doesn't matter. And a good example of this is I just downloaded a document from the New Zealand Ministry of Transport website where it's like a briefing to ministers, and they're talking about drones and all the rules and the new rules. And then they list all the drones you can have. And they've got a little 100-gram one without a camera, a little 250-gram one with a camera, then a Phantom 4 and a Mavic. Not one fixed-wing aircraft in the list. They're all multi-rotors. And so they're telling politicians, these are drones. And they're not reminding them that, well, these rules will affect model aircraft as well. The politicians don't know that. Oh, yeah, we'll tick that off. We don't want these damn drones. What about the model aircraft? They are not drawing even a distinction on the basis of the type of airframe.
I just saw on the news a few guys having a demonstration in front of UK airbase because they don't want the drones there. They don't want the 10-hour atomic ones. So
that's just over there.
You were at that demonstration?
No, Louis, that base is literally 5 miles from me. It's the other side of the city. It's that RAF base where they're protesting about drones.
You started that protest. You were the guy hanging the Yankees go home.
And I've been to a cocktail party there. Well, hey. Anyway.
It's Mark's Mavic that's usually parked at the end of the runway getting all the good shots of the planes coming and going.
But the reality of that is the big aircraft's gone. They've got rid of the one with the frisbee on the roof. Those are being run out of service, and I don't think the Sentinels are going to run out of Waddington. I've forgotten what I heard was going to happen.
The Reds are going in. The Reds are going in.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so
regular scheduled flights to Afghanistan have been cancelled.
Apparently, yeah.
So the Reds are going into Waddington. because it's the nearest base to R313, so the Red Arrows airspace. The problem was they were looking to move the Red Arrows, and they wanted to move the airspace. And I think the CA went, thankfully, they kind of went, no, it's been there that long. Everyone's used to it. If we just create a new R313 somewhere else, it's going to cause so many problems. So you're used to it there. And then the RAF had to look and go, which base, because we're closing Scampton, we want to sell that off. Where can we put them? And they put them at Wittering before, didn't they? And they've had them at Crownwell before, but they burned too much fuel getting to and from the practice area. So Waddington was the only real base they could go into, because Coningsby's too hot. It's it's a very active airbase. It's quick response there. They've always got aircraft on standby. So you wouldn't want to put them into Coningsby at all. So yeah, they're shifting them at some point in the next couple of years. But I was going to say Reapers, but they're not Reapers. It's the MQ-9
9As and Bs, yeah.
Yeah, they are actually going to be controlled and flown in and out of Waddington at some point.
No, they're controlled from a shed, basically. Waddington. They've got this great big airbase, and everything happens like miles away. I went to a meeting there, and I did have a few ginger ales, a few sherries with a few dear friends, and I was so glad I was out of uniform and no longer serving, because there was so much braid and whatever from every single part of the forces that my hand would never have left the side of my head. I've never seen so many high-ranking officers in a meeting, and this was in 2009, I think, and they'd solved an awful lot of the problems we're going through right now back then with detect, sense, and avoid, and all sorts of things. I know I'm waffling on, but I had a very interesting time at Waddington. So I saw what they were doing back then, and it really bugger all happens there.
They are bringing those aircraft in. They will be going out in and out of that base at some point. If this year and onwards, they are bringing them in, and they are that's now known. They're going to actually have a few at the base that will.
That's fulfilling Thales' wet dream of having large platforms orbiting over Europe, and then you sell the data to whichever service needs it at the minute, because the thing's on a 24-hour orbit. Oh, there's a fire over there. Oh, won't you just pootle over there a little bit and show us a bit of the fire? Oh, there's a car chase going on. I'll pootle over there, give us a bit of that. Or
what they wanted to also. So what's interesting, they also wanted to drop a 30-mile radius danger area over Lincolnshire. 30 miles. And just go, when the aircraft's in the air, no one else can fly.
Well, that'll be just like what the F-111s used to have up Hayford. I think it was an even bigger area than that they used to have for their approaches. That'll be because of the way in which airspace is operated by the country that creates those craft. And it's just nuts how they do it. But the F-111s used to go into Upper Hayford from the east of the UK or the west of the UK, and everything had to get out of the way. So that's very much hearkening to other people's method of operation. That's all I'll say to that. But I can imagine the CAA weren't very happy about that.
Yeah, it's in consultation, I think. What's interesting is as well, unless you know that the CA are going to change airspace or want to do something, they don't come to you. No one comes to you to find out if you're there. And if you don't see it in time, you're scuppered. So when they do an airspace change, which airport did they recently do? So Farnborough. When they changed Farnborough, and the gliding clubs went, whoa, we're over here, and everyone just went, we don't care. You're going into controlled airspace.
Well, that was because the American company that bought Farnborough was one of the conditions of the sale, that they had that protected airspace. So that's why that happened. That was dreadful. If you're flying up now from the west of the UK to the east of the UK, you've got a wall of controlled airspace in your light aircraft to try and get through now. And they were going to do similar up at Bryce Norton. Bryce Norton wanted more airspace, and that really would have closed from Southampton up to Bryce Norton is basically one big chunk of sky. Really would have been very difficult for light aircraft to navigate, and gliders and balloons and all that to navigate around it. So yeah, I thought these aircraft now had better navigation systems. The pilots are better trained and able to fly in all sorts of weather and be far more accurate. I'm not quite sure whether they're needing more and more and more sky in which to operate.
And the crazy thing is, on the East Coast, as you're probably aware, we have so many bombing ranges and danger areas that if you actually wanted to do anything, all you've got to do is take the aircraft off, turn out, fly out to the East Coast. The wash is massive. You've got a massive play area if you want it. You know, you don't have to be over any rural area you don't want to. All you've got to do is take off, turn right, head to the coast, jobs are good.
Keep going, Germany. Anyway, no, that was another time. That's another time altogether. Yeah, no, I'm ranting about this. But yeah, airspace and things are changing for no good reason all around the world. But let's return back to Bruce then, chasing magpies. Has that gone well for you? That video,
as well as I expected.
Was it chasing magpies or chasing Karens? I got
I think that the two are linked, inexorably linked. But I expected there to be some kickback, and that's why I put a comment in the description. But people fire off without doing any kind of research. They don't know how to use Mr. Google, and so I had to do a clarification video to point it out. And
Bruce,
it's interesting enough. What?
You say on that video that magpies are invading species. Aren't you also an invading species?
Absolutely, but I'm not allowed to chase people. They've regulated you can't chase people, but you're allowed to chase birds.
So I've got to ask you, Bruce, why didn't you have a car with a siren on top and stripes down the side of it, driving down the runway, firing off loud noises? Because that's how you're meant to clear a runway.
Not around here. You're supposed to shoot them, or poison them, or trap them, and then break their necks.
Well, I'm talking all birds off runways.
Those supermodels can stay. Yeah. It is crazy. It's crazy because magpies in this part of the world are actually vilified. They're dangerous things. They're just, as I said in that video, you know, a baby got killed as a result of a magpie attack just the other week. And there are people have been blinded, people have been really seriously injured. So you might be upsetting the magpie. Really, that thing was just toying with me. I was doing my best to dislodge it. It didn't give a damn. It didn't give a damn.
And, you know, we've got magpies here as well, and they are not particularly nice birds. You know, they're one of the few you don't really want around.
Well, you just over there, you need 4 and 20 of them to bake in the pie.
Blackbirds.
Don't get seagulls pissed off.
I know.
Yeah, they're the worst. They are.
Somebody the other day was asking, is there a wrap I can buy for my Mavic that repels seagulls?
No.
Did you read that comment? Did you read that comment on the video about someone who said that they had a bird strike problem somewhere up near the Arctic Circle? And apparently there were Arctic terns were regularly hitting aircraft. The commander or the operator of the airport said everyone needs to go out and find some rocks and throw them at the birds. Leave no tern unstoned.
Very good. And Dan's mentioning, have you seen the Rowbird? Yeah, they are. It is a cool bit of kit, and there's a few other companies are available for making similar things.
I think there are some reflective stripes. I've never tested, but I've seen quite a few times some reflective stripes that you get on your drone, and that confuses the birds, and they'll go away. I don't know if it's true or not. I think it's another.
They never chase my drone. They never, because we've taught them. They walk. It's much safer to walk around our airfield. We've conditioned them over many years of encouraging them to leave. But it's like And another thing, I've often followed hawks around when they're thermaling. You can follow them around. They don't give a damn. They just circle around. They don't care. They're bigger than you. But the magpies will drive hawks away. I've seen magpies driving hawks away during the nesting season. And they're a tiny bird compared to like a 1.8 meter wingspan harrier hawk or something. So yeah, they're not cute, cuddly little furry creatures, those magpies. They're like Karens, really.
Well, it's like seagulls. So a seagull's a fairly big bird, but there was an AAIB incident they looked at. They took out an M210. They're not afraid of big drones. An M210 is turning 15-inch props, and there is an CAA UK AAIB again about flying near birds, because seagulls will take you out.
Yeah, I know they took me out, bought me lunch, and they wanted more, but I wasn't going to give it to them. but I have been attacked by a flock of gulls, and they knocked my drone for 6. I recovered, but it was like, whoa, that's pretty exciting, because they are quite, aggro.
They're relentless. Once they get it in their head to get you out of an area,
I think they're after the chips in the flight controllers.
Yeah,
they love chips.
Yeah, they love chips. Yeah. They do love a chip. You're absolutely right. The here it's vultures. You've got to get out of the way of here.
I think one good piece of advice that we might give to all is, in case of a problem, just go straight up.
Yeah.
Don't go down. Go straight up and try to find another way to come down, because it's much harder for the birds to fly vertically straight up. So
and disarm doesn't work. They don't have arms.
Yeah.
No, Louis' right. I mean, I was flying an EB back in 2018, and I had a problem with a Falcon. It would not. No, it might have been a Hawk. It would not let the EB fly its course, and there was nothing I could do. Problem was, if you tell the EB to do its emergency roll, or you try to tell it to the climb or its descent, the EB will then turn around, come back and do its job again. And the Hawk learnt this. It after 3 or 4 pops at me, it learnt that if it does the roll, that's fine. I can climb back up again. And I had to literally let the EB take the beating it was going to get. I lost 2 battery covers. I had holes in the aircraft. But what do you do? It's really hard knowing how to deal with it. See, if I came back another day, it didn't matter, because it's the bird's turf. I'm at 100 odd meters high, but they learned they had to go really high. So I was then watching, just waiting for them. And if I time it right and I do a roll just to put him off the attack in the swoop, I could literally, the EB might just do the turning time and continue on its course by the time he started to sort himself out to come back up for a second attack.
I had, while I was doing some training somewhere in South America, I had a problem with a very large condor. I believe it was a condor, 2.5 or 3 meters from looking at it would be around 3 meters. And let's just say that you might never have seen an M210 go up vertically so fast as it did in that day, because the students were, what do we do? And I grabbed the remote and full ATI go up. So
on Lake Victoria, when we were at that drone delivery thing, all manner of platforms were flying fine. There were yellow kites everywhere, but they were just like, whatever. But the Wingtra thing, that tail sitter come out. This is the Wingtra, isn't it? Yeah, it is the Wingtra. The tail sitter come out, and they just mobbed it. They didn't mob any of the others, just that one in its gentle hover and away, and chased it around, and it was attracting birds in yellow-billed kites in the dozens, in fact. Every takeoff and landing, it was quite something to watch. It really was. They didn't hit it, but they were mobbing it. They were trying to get it out of the way. They didn't like the look of orange.
Why isn't this sort of stuff part of the certification for competency flying RPAS? It sounds like it's a bit of a problem around the world, but I have not seen one exam or certification process that covers what do you do if you're attacked by wildlife.
Actually, there isn't, and it's not part of the UK's CAA training requirement. I do know that much. But it's something that I used to teach. So, you teach, look, if you're going to get harassed by birds, there's not a lot you can do other than go vertical, as Louis says. There's little else you can do.
So this is kind of stupid, isn't it, Mark? Because they don't teach you what to do when you're going to be attacked by wildlife, which is quite a common thing. But they are telling you that you've got to use propellers from the original manufacturer if the manufacturer specifies it, even if those props are inferior.
But that's the other thing. The intention might be good. Come on. Have you seen the crazy guys that are now trying to sell to those unknowing those users that bought DJI Mavic Mini 2, the Mini 2s that they are trying to sell 3-bladed props increases in 10% your flight time. Those guys are just killing the drone. So the intention of saying don't use non-approved material on your drone applies to these guys.
But it does the way it's written. It applies to everybody, and that's ridiculous. It should be the words "when necessary to ensure safety" should be added to all that stuff, because sometimes that's an important write-up.
Give them a break. Give them a break. They don't know. For them, every drone is the one that you pick up from a shelf.
Exactly, but these people are regulators. They have a job. There's a responsibility to know what they're doing. If they don't know what they're doing, they shouldn't be making rules which are a bad fit with reality.
So here's a question. Here's the thing then. So I think both of you got a valid point, but how about this? So if there was a drone released and it had a bad prop system, so it had a bad propeller system or it had a bad failure rate of props, it would just get a block on that. The CAA would go, look, these props are failing. Don't fly this aircraft unless you change those props. They literally will actually put out a safety warning. That's what
for what?
Wasn't the CAA that issued a warning for a big 3-letter Chinese manufacturer about some issue?
The water, water.
No, that's 1 letter and 3 numbers. I'm just saying 3 letters, the manufacturer. So no, but yes, come on, the guys. If you want to fly your own drone, you register it as an experimental device. I have 3 or 4 of my flying things registered as experimental, and for those kind of rules don't apply. Those rules would only apply to a manufactured supplied drone.
So this is killing the ability for third-party manufacturers to improve a product, and they should be allowed to improve a product. If they're producing something that's genuinely better than the OEM. Why can't they be used?
Yeah, as Louis says, Bruce, not an improvement.
Come on. Imagine that British Airways buys some nice Boeings and some smart guy at British Airways. Oh, let's put these Kalashnikov motors on the Boeings. That is an unsanctioned change on the.
Yeah, but we're not talking about people riding around these things. Look at this. This is the DJI Fpv drone. The props on this are crap. Other companies have come out with adapters so you can fit much better props. They fly better. They're safer because these only clip on. The other ones are better. And so why can't you use a better product when it's available? Just because and DJI aren't going to say, use our competitors' props.
By the manufacturer.
No, they're not going to say use the competitors' props. They're going to say use only our props because we make money out of them. $25 New Zealand for 4 propellers here, whereas you can get the adapters and use a better prop for half the price.
Oh, so cheap! Come on, the guy that spends the thousands of dollars for a one stupid FPV drone should have the props at least at $200 per set. Come on.
All right. Well, as we're going down this route of propeller talk. Carbon fiber propellers. Do we really need them in the world?
Oh yeah,
double-edged sword.
So sweet looking.
Oh god, they're so beautiful when they're stopped. That carbon weaving. Come on,
when they're stopped. Yes, when they're stopped. Yes. I just think the danger outweighs any potential improvement.
But it's a cleaner cut. It's a cleaner cut.
It is a cleaner cut. It's a cleaner cut. You're right.
So you're going to bleed
to death a lot easier. Go and pick up my big helicopters, carbon blades. those are real samurai swords.
And you're not looking at the
Absolutely.
big picture, Gary. You're not looking at the planet. Now, that carbon, it's sequestered carbon, so we've taken it out of the environment. Also, they're more efficient, so you're using less electricity, which means less coal has been burnt per flight. So the big picture, you can't be selfish and say, oh, I don't want to have my hand cut off. That's just selfish.
You're right. You're right.
No,
Well, there we are. Well,
no,
I asked, and I got the answers, so that's fine. That's fine.
To me,
No, I'm
carbon
going to
props are
turn
double-edged.
my helicopters into hybrids. Not plug-in. It's a plug-in hybrid that you charge it, and when it flies, it can compensate with the rotor down and recharge the batteries. So I'm going to do
Regenerative
it
rotor braking.
helicopter.
I can tell you one thing: never be near a helicopter when the wooden blades fail. I've had that. I was in the pits one day sorting out my own helicopter, doing something maintenance on mine before I flew it. Someone was test hovering a Raptor. It was either a 30 or a 50 with wooden blades, and I could hear the head speed. And I thought, that's wooden blades. That's a bit high. And I swear, about 10 seconds after that, there was an almighty bang as the blade let go, and you just went. I didn't dare turn around. I just didn't dare turn around for a minute because, yeah, that was not good.
Well, wood is just pre-carbon.
Well, yeah. So on the what you have to do on the Raptor as well, when you get the wooden blades, you've got to cut away a little bit of the plastic and you glue the plastic blade root in place. And I don't think that had been done either. But even so, the head speed was too high for the wooden blade, so you could hear it. I could hear it as soon as it went, and it was an experienced heli pilot, and I just went.
It's not the departing blade you worry about. It's the funky
It's
chicken
the
thing that
arriving
leaves
bits.
behind.
Oh, it literally exploded in the air. It let go that well. It just, it made a mess. It was a bit to repair.
So where I really wanted to take was this idea that you can have a sub 250 gram drone in town, basically, and crack on with it. But they haven't added to that piece, by the way, keep plastic propellers on it, because, to my opinion, because if you put carbon fiber propellers on that 250 gram drone, whilst it might be very light, it suddenly becomes a lot more dangerous, I think.
Yes.
But
It's
maybe
even
I'm
more
completely
lunatic.
wrong. Shoot me down.
Even crazier because you can fly the little Mavic Mini, 249 grams, right? But if you put prop guards on it to make it safer, you've then got to register it, and it becomes a over 250 gram craft. The safer version requires registration. The less safe version with exposed props doesn't require registration. It shows you how, as I say, the regulators, no clues. These people, they really need to talk to the right people in the hobby and get a whack upside the head with a clue stick.
Yeah. So the difference is then, so regardless, you have to have an operator ID on it, even at sub 250, because it's got the camera. It's only the flyer ID that changes if you was to put the prop guards on this. So I would never fly with prop guards on it because it then senses it's a heavier aircraft and goes, oh, I'm going to limit what you can do. For a start, it does some limitations to the flight. But again, I would not put carbons on one of these because you're just asking for it. You know, it's a great little machine. And these little plastic props, sure, they're going to cut me, but stiff carbons, you know, if a dog runs up or a kid runs up, these little carbons this size will just make the mess you don't want. Where the plastic ones, yes, I think they would, but these are fairly flimsy. You know, it's got some nice bend in it. It's got a bit of a chance of give, but carbon, it won't forgive.
EPO props.
Articulated blades are much easier. Come on, you can almost put a hand with a glove in the path of one of those blades, and it will
Stainless
bend
steel.
back. It will bend back.
Yeah, iron.
Yeah.
The new
Lots of
Ginzu
backs.
props.
Well, interestingly, in Germany, they allow metal blades on model helicopters, but in the UK, they've never permitted it for a long time. I think they changed the rule a bit ago to do with scale, but they will not let model helicopters have metal blades in the UK.
Yeah, I think the rules here are no metal props.
Yeah. There is.
Yeah, it's just the
Metal
whole, CA brings this thing out about propellers, but it's a bigger topic than just only use the manufacturers.
Yeah, and I can see the benefit where you're working with commercial drones that are big and large, and there's a risk to people, and they're flown in areas where there could be, people or property. But if we're talking about a hobby recreational drone being flown in an open area, it's ridiculous. The people just, I say, the granularity is not there. They're just looking at everything as being exactly the same, and you can't make a rule that encompasses everything and call it risk-based. It's rubbish.
At some point, someone somewhere is going to go, and this is all in the paperwork somewhere, all in the YARSA twaddle. This prop will have to be certified or made of a certain material to a certain standard. All that is actually in the YARSA stuff. So the specific category, at some point in the future, this prop will have to be, or the prop on the aircraft that's certified in the specific category, is going to have this made of a certain material, a certain standard, and it'll have to break at a certain point. And
from a certain factory that you can trace from exactly where the blade comes from.
Yeah.
Be certified just like the rest of aviation and be priced like certified stuff.
Guys, why are we concerned with the plastic props or the carbon props? We have so much more things to worry about, like starting next year, the cars will obey by themselves the speed limits with the new regulations. Come on, why are we concerned with this? Come on.
Interestingly, cars for the car regulation that Lou is talking about, if I recall correctly, the cars have to have the device fitted to tell you it's breaking the speed limit. So if you're driving,
mandatory from next year.
Yeah, but you can actually turn it off, because in the regulations, the driver has the option to turn that off.
That's because there's more money to be made from speeding tickets than funerals.
Well, funny thing is that pretty much most of the new cars actually collect that information even now and send it back to whoever made it. It's just a simple detail of the police not being able to get it, which is going to change next year. Funny thing is, now you can't switch that off if you want to. Would be curious to see if that's going to change in any way on cars that are being sold now.
Well, speaking as a poor example, because I just got on Friday a speeding ticket. Let's just say that JCW is not very friendly. But I was reading the article about ISA system. That's the name of the system in EU. And 1984? Yes, I would say Mr. Orwell is right. The thing is, when you start reading the justification for this regulation, they say something very, very funny. We've interviewed several users, and they were all very happy because this system will prevent them from getting speeding tickets. So it's a clear case of how do you ask the question. So if you ask, would you like a system that would help you prevent getting speeding tickets? Oh, that would be fine. I would sign already on that. Okay, we have a system that won't let your car go above a certain speed. So here you have. So it's the kind of thinking that we fight on the drone world is all over the place. And there are places where it impacts us most, like the cars. And come on, look at the stupid daytime running lights. It makes sense in Sweden, northern Norway, or something like that. Does it make sense in Africa? Does it make sense in Portugal?
Are you saying that Africans' lives are less valuable than Swedish people's lives?
No,
you can't say that, Louis. No. That's racism, man. You get us kicked off the air.
Look at the daytime running lights. All cars are mandated to have daytime running lights from whatever year.
Brought to you by the Light Bulb Association of.
If you want to go green, those daytime running lights are an absolute killer, because imagine an enormous amount of watts that are spent all over the world because of daytime running lights.
And they could light those watts could light African huts for years.
How many cars in Africa have air conditioning?
Now LEDs, so it's not that much.
No,
air conditioning is the bigger killer.
It's not that much
uses kilowatts of energy.
Multiply it, Nicola. Imagine 1 million cars with 1 watt of daytime running lights for 1 hour. You
It's
get
over 100
1
watts.
million watts per hour.
Okay, but they're currently running at 50 watts. So 1 watt is a pretty good trade-off.
Oh,
No,
God.
And all
worst
they have
thing
to do is turn off the air conditioning for 1 hour a day, and they've saved more energy.
The worst thing about
sorry, just open 2 windows in your house, and then you get
What?
air conditioning.
It's winter. I'm not doing that here.
Yeah,
Come on.
You're just letting the energy
There's
go to
snow on
waste.
the mountains up there. It's
Yeah.
bloody snow.
the worst thing is when you're talking about the speeding stuff. Just then, I've got a speed awareness course tomorrow over Zoom.
Have you been a naughty boy?
Yes, I got done on the A1. I won't go into the story, but it was as soon as the camera triggered, I was like, "What? I'm not." Oh yeah, I am speeding.
Yeah, let's just say that this car that I got is a speeding ticket magnet, so you easily forget what you're doing. But
John
now,
makes a really good point here, though, because it is the lead into autonomous vehicles, isn't it? You're going to need to regulate speeds to make sure that they can fit in better.
Look,
200.
I've just done 200 on the A4.
Oh, no. Oh, no. I think that might have been his finest hour, and we're recording
Yes,
this,
that
so I
was
think
good.
we've got it. I think finest hour. We can have a moment's silence to just everyone must take that in and think about it. And very good.
Let's switch gears and think about it. And there's something that happened this week. Was the guy from Hotel that resigned?
Yes.
Go, Gary.
Well, what are you going to say about it? I have some opinions, so I'm going to let you go first. But
now I have also some opinions because, as you know, I was trying to reach out to Hotel, and finally our camping friend managed to get me someone to speak to, and I was a bit.
And then they resigned, so it's your fault. So you
no,
resign.
No. It was not that the same person. But I wasn't very happy with the status of that company, the responsiveness of that company. The guy he didn't have the time to do anything, almost anything. But I want to hear your opinion on that, because at the moment, from a professional point of view, from someone that has a large number of drones operating simultaneously, that is not a company that inspires confidence to invest on their vehicles. So,
well, funny you should say that. I'm just switching my phone on. I'm going to get a photo up, which will lead into this, or will be useful in a minute. But I'll switch my phone off, and anyway, it doesn't matter what stuff. But they sold one of their Skyfish. They've actually sold one of those VTOLs that are $135,000 a pop. They've managed to sell one, which is quite interesting. But what do we think? The chap obviously had some problems with the company, but lining up a job before you and then saying something nasty as you go out the door, is that very professional on his part? That's what I thought.
This is the drone industry. You don't expect professionalism.
That's all right then. Fine. All right, I'm glad. It's another thing you've cleared up for me there.
There are always two sides of the same story, and from what he told, he showed some integrity that is laudable, but we don't know what went there.
Well, I heard that the previous CEO was still very much in charge, and it was him that he wanted out of the way. And when he said to the big bosses in China, "Why aren't you getting this fellow out of the way?" They said, "Well, you fire him," and he said, "No." And then that's what I heard. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. But I'm sorry, I can't share that. What kind of? Oh. Well, and I open up another message and it says, "I'm sorry, you can't share that." I wonder what I can't share. If you're watching, person that says I can't share something, I hope you're not watching what I'm just about to share. Let's see. I don't know whether it's something else that's happening, because of course it's the AUVSI show that's going on at the moment. And
is that going on? Is anybody?
It's happening right now.
There?
Bugger all people are there. Bugger all people are there. But the person who is there is and I will share this. Let's just make sure I've removed. Yes, there's no identifiable information in this. The person that is there is this person. Do we know who this person is? Anyone know this person? This
Is it
person
Bruce Lee?
is Bruce Lee.
Someone with a mask.
It's the
Bat eater?
19. It's the
Zorro?
19-year-old son of the owner of Autel, who is really, quite honestly, your actual CEO of Autel. So it's been run by a 19-year-old lad. So that might explain why you're not getting answers. They'll probably be angry with me now, but people are angry with me. It's a fairly standard thing.
I really couldn't care less at the moment. So that went out of the door. So the amount, there were a few other issues. Like, come on, an SDK that doesn't get developed or updated in 2 years has no references to the newer models, although someone tells you, yes, it can work with the new models. And you say, well, the new models do a few extra tricks that the old didn't do. So how can we be sure? So too many open questions there. And too slow questions, too slow to get answers. So off.
Well, you're running a business. You're running a business that needs stuff day to day, and you need an idea that when you have a problem, or if you need to buy another 200 because your business is going really well, either way, they're going to talk to you.
Yeah.
Can you show us? Sorry, I was going to ask. Could you just show us a picture of the one they sold for 135, so people can see it?
I certainly can. I can go here because I've just posted
Sorry,
it. It was that exciting that I put it up. Just there it is, 135,000 of your US dollars. It's quite a thing, isn't it?
That's 135k.
Yeah.
Did they?
It's been around for years as well. These motors tilt on the end.
I have something similar. I'd be willing to let it go for just 80,000. It's a bargain, guys. So jump on it. It's a real bargain. Just
will we get a T-shirt for the 80,000? Will we get a T-shirt as well, and maybe some badges and stickers and things?
Oh yeah. It's gonna have the Archangel logo on it. Usually I charge another 5,000 for that, but one off, it's free.
But this is mates rates, isn't it? This is for us and any viewers of this. Obviously, if you're not watching this now, and this offer is probably not valid as soon as we go off air, isn't it?
Oh no. They can contact me.
This has been around for.
I'm gonna have them on the conveyor belt.
But it's been around for years, this thing. It's just this year they've sold one.
Guys,
finally.
That's peanuts. Come on, get real. Real drones are a bit more involved and expensive than that. We've our Air Force. Our Air Force did a contract with a company, and they paid up a few millions. That includes not only the systems, and only, I believe, 4. But they've been crashing as much as any other foamy from Nikola. and these don't crash in the mountains; they crash.
Oh,
My
that's-
foamies don't
and-
crash. Thank you very
and-
much.
And Nicola just gave us such a great offer, and then you just come around and slap him like that. That is terrible.
Yeah, but
Absolutely
come on.
terrible.
Even assuming he's for real, you'll be crashing at half price. Come on.
Yes,
That's
yes,
a bargain you can't
yes,
pass up.
yes. You can't argue with that.
Can't
Even
argue
discount
with that.
crashing, discount crashes available. Yes,
Now, what I don't like about that Artel is the way the props transition. I don't like the aircraft that do this with the props. I've flown the Trinity F9, and you add that extra level of complication on the prop tilt. It doesn't make for a good mix. I can tell you that much.
yeah.
Come on, don't be. Come on, some smart piece of code can solve that.
Oh,
It can't when the tail servo snaps off, though.
Get the bridge.
That's what happens to those, isn't it? I know it is.
Bridge it. Just now the word of the week is just bridge it.
Just Trigit,
Oh.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
all I can say is the Trinity F9 back when I was flying them. Yeah, I don't trust it.
I see they're sneaking in pictures of one that's probably 3 times the size of the original one. In the odd marketing picture, there's always one it's tucked in the corner. If you look about their pictures, there's one just tucked away here, there, and everywhere. And Peppermint talking about the Osprey. The Osprey does okay, but it doesn't do okay when you put a fixed wing pilot in it that doesn't have a lot of helicopter time, and they can't go through translational lift properly, and they get into settling with power and all those sort of things. So it does do quite well, but it's not brilliant. They're bloody dangerous. They've killed a lot of Marines in those things.
And by the way, isn't the Osprey the one that has a special requirement for a runway? Otherwise, when it is the vertical propellers lifts the runway up.
It destroys that helicopter pad.
Yeah, Cambridge. Yeah, it did. Yeah, I mean, it was like if you ever stand under a Chinook, it's like being under a flipping whirlwind or something. Not the old helicopter, Bruce, but it's flipping windy underneath the Chinook, and it's flipping windy underneath those things. They're okay. Yeah, I don't like the complexity of. I personally don't think the idea of separate lift thrust is great. I think just having a football pitch size runway is the way forward, but the separate lift thrust is at least very, very simple, and it works. There's nothing tilting and pitching and going and changing, and so
all you need is a servo to play up or something on that tilt, and
all you need is a servo to get the teeth striped, and then you have a floating propeller.
That's why we don't fly tricopters anymore.
Yeah.
I like tricopters. I want another one. I like them. They were nice to fly.
A Y6 is a good configuration.
Y6.
I've never flown a Y6. I must try.
Louis into his unicopters a lot.
I had one for quite a while. DIY.
Yeah. Well, there's not many of those about, is there, anymore? There's not many hexacopters. Not too many, really.
Well, there's nothing professional out there, is there, off the shelf? Is there now?
Yes,
Much
there
of
is. Come on, Mark.
DJI got rid of. DJI ditched everything.
No, not on your price.
Chinese, though.
No. Go to the Alta.
Foxtech. Oh.
No. Now go to the market reference regarding endurance and whatever you want to call it, and you get an Alta. Now there are a few of the pilot partners in US, mostly in US, that have some very heavy-duty hexacopters.
Yeah.
So
now I thought that Qualcomm and Model AI have been jumping up about this today, and I just thought it's Back to the Future. Look at that. What does that remind you of?
A Pixar Hawk quad.
No. It reminds us of the what was before the
DJI flame wheel.
no.
Yeah, that sort of a thing, isn't it?
It's
No,
just
the
a
one
basic
from
pod.
3D Robotics. What was the first one?
Oh, the Iris.
Iris.
Yeah.
But isn't that amazing? So the only thing that's got on that is of any interest is a 5G modem, and I don't think it's the first to be flying with one. But yeah, I saw that, and that's a press release from the 2021 AUVSI show. Is this really as far as we've got? He moans.
Come on, people
Well, the
have
question-
been at home. Come on, people have been at home. They have been locked down. So,
Had to find their old frames, just add something to it.
come on.
Yeah.
It
you think
does
that's fair?
seem that we've kind of we're hitting certain airframe's an airframe now, isn't it? It's all about the sensor really now, and we seem to be stuck at the minute to a degree.
No, we need
With
the quanta effect properly explored. Like someone has explained the quanta effect extensively on his channel before he started ranting about other things. We need the hydrogen. Was it the hydrogen? Well, how's that project of the hydrogen?
What you
Yes.
talking about?
the S800 Survivor, the S800.
Yeah.
Don't we remember the good old S800?
Yeah.
Well, you see that image, and that's being held up today as some fantastic thing. And then when you watch the video for that, they talk about the shots are every other platform in the world. They're not that. They're Mavics and this and that and all the other and this and this. And the opening line is, "This is what an intelligent drone looks like." No, it's not. That's a Mavic. That's not what you've got in your advert. It's not what you've got in your things. It's quite extraordinary. It's quite extraordinary. Yeah. I think the show it's amazed me. It's produced below all exciting press releases yet. And we're
It's a
at
bit
day
like the
2.
computer industry, isn't it? I used to go to the computer shows back in the early 80s, and every show there was something new and exciting and different, and everyone was trying to be, have their points of distinction. And then IBM came out with the PC, and everyone was just copying, and it was all the same. And all you got from one show to another was a slightly different shaped brochure and a slightly different colored case and a little tweak on last year's performance, a few extra megahertz of clock speed, and then it's like everything matured and all the buzz went out of it, and finally they were just tools used for a job, and there wasn't that hype around them anymore.
Yeah,
The same
Dan
with
mentioned-
microphones now.
You used to go and buy CD players, so you get CD recorders and you get a slightly faster one. Oh, this one can go at 4 speed instead of 2 speed, and then you get your 8
You
speed
can listen to
one.
an LP in just 30 minutes instead of 45.
Yep.
Well,
But
Dan's
you know.
mentioning the Fixar there. Now, yeah, I know what you're talking about, but that's only that TU Delft thing changed around a little bit. I actually made one of those, a similar thing to that years ago. So it's good that it's out there. It's good that they're marketing it, but it's not. They've been around years. There's nothing new really. Lots of radios at this show. That's what I've noticed. So communications is C2 links is becoming the thing at the moment, with be it satellite or some sort of mesh.
We've seen that with the earlinks a few years ago. Now there's a few guys that are doing also some of those larger, including most of them including some displays. Most of those displays are plain crap that you cannot see even inside the house during the daylight, much less on the outside.
With the lights off.
But they look good on the marketing pictures. Most of them running a version of my friend Alex from Autopilot of the telemetry for OpenTX. So it's just the availability of the underlying chips that enables any bottom of the stairs assembler to do this.
Well, I was surprised not more attention isn't being paid to things like antennas and making a little stand on the back of that transmitter so I can put it on the roof of my car, so at least there's a tiny bit of a ground plane involved in the situation.
Any piece of wire works as an antenna. Why do we need
any piece of wire? Yeah, well, you're right. Yeah,
you've got a very big background in RF technology there, Louis. Actually, what amazes me, I can't believe how many of the basic rules of RF are broken by some of these systems. A dipole antenna these days consists of putting a quarter wavelength of wire on the inner of a coax and a quarter wave on the outer. You're going from an unbalanced to a balanced setup. You've got massive problems with that as there's current flowing in the braid of the coax. It's like these people never learnt basic RF technology, but that's what they call it. It's a dipole. It's not a dipole. It's a quarter wave with a pitiful counterpoise, and it doesn't work the same.
Yes.
What amazes me is, so on my Futaba transmitter, which is somewhere, on the antenna, in the instructions, it says never grab the antenna because your hands have to be a certain distance from that antenna because it's pumping out a certain radio frequency and certain waves and can damage your hand.
Have you ever read the instruction manual of your micro?
You got the Futaba.
And do not poke it in your eye.
But you're not meant to. But it basically says don't touch because you could cause some damage. It's a safety thing, isn't it? And it amazes me the DJI stuff. Where's the antenna in this? Is it going to hurt me? Is it not?
Well, I reckon they're talking more about.
Just bullshitting you. It means you're looking at 100 milliwatts effective radiated power. That's nothing. It's not even going to warm the hairs on your backside. What it says is it's
keep my hands warm.
Changes the SWR for the transmitter, and if using a really bad piece of electronics, you could damage the transmitter. So Futaba, probably that's why they got the warning. DJI, as long as you're more than just over a wavelength away from the antenna, what you do with your hands is not going to make a whole lot of difference.
But we certainly could see a great deal of performance in RPAS systems. Well, DJI obviously done very well. They do get great performance out of the gear that they've got. But all these add-ons and things and all these transmitters that we're mentioning now with screens you can't see even with the lights off, the antenna side of it is lacking. It's definitely lacking. And then on the fit, because, why not? You've already mentioned dipoles. Why not put the make the antenna in your aircraft horizontal and have a vertical on your ground control. I've seen loads of people do that
great.
To make it fit.
Why would you run a horizontal dipole, a horizontal antenna on an aircraft that can pivot 360?
Yes, in a dipole, in no way will a dipole become directional. That'll never happen. Could never happen.
I always found it really funny when people will put like flat panel directional antenna straight out in front of themselves so they can fly straight over there. And the aircraft can go that way and they get an extra 3 kilometers. But as soon as they fly to the right by, I don't know, they come instead of being 120, they come to 180. It's like
what is more interesting is people have patch antennas on their goggles and they spend the entire flight looking at the ground.
Yes.
So the antenna is doing nothing. It's like, oh no, what are you people doing? Bend it up, because I see so many people flying FPV with patches on and they're doing absolutely nothing except picking up reflections that you don't want.
So I think that where I can try to lead this conversation around is the flight controller side is done. To a degree, the radio side is done, the airframe side is done, but we can still improve bits here and there that we should be seeing more of. We should be seeing more professional radio installations in ready to fly gear from privateer companies, should I say. I've seen some dreadful stuff. Look
at the latest industrial type radios from DJI. The radio that comes with the M300 is just like a toy. They have that Sendence professional radio that had a very good screen, and they went to that toy-like control.
I'm with Louis on this. When you have a controller in your hand, this is a toy one in my eyes.
Does size matter?
Well, no, but it's the feel in your hands, isn't it, Louis? When you've got it there, you can feel it feels nice. It's the right weight. You've got the proper sticks, not these silly little twangy things.
Not only that, the possibility of having the radio in one position and orient
Extra.
the screen in a different position.
Yeah,
And
so you can
a
have it
good
like that.
screen. Yeah. So those are small usage details that when someone is at the industry and has people flying 8-10 hours a day with one of those systems, a small radio, yes, it's useful. You don't need a strap. You don't need a vest with a strap to hang the radio. It's much easier on the hands, on the shoulders, everything. But end of the day, you make much more effort controlling an expensive drone like the M300 with a Dinky Toys radio than with a good sized radio.
So we need some radio engineers and what the crazy young people call them now, UX designers, user experience designers. A few more of those need to come into the market now to help out.
No. Everything is cute now. So Qt, you just
Kawaii,
everybody designing the UIs on Qt. And come on, you've seen it. You've seen once. You've seen it all. Come on, have you guys been on the one of the latest Mercedes Benzes? They have Qt. You enter the car as soon as the dashboard lights up. You see, oh, this was designed with Qt. It has a distinctive signature of how the UI is designed. So we need to port that out to radios. But then, what do you show on the radio? Look at the interface that DJI has. Everybody went after that radio. Central image, sometimes not very useful information on around the screen. Yes, I see that some people use Jetty.
Only for my boat. I only use Jetty for my boat.
Yeah.
Oh, and Grotner, that's also another radio.
Hey, but this raises a really interesting question, though, because
the Grotners, yes, but
we were talking about CAA mandating what props you can use on your models. How long before they start saying, well, you can only use the manufacturer's approved firmware on your radio without modifications? Which, again, like if you've got one of these DJI drones, you want to unlock the FAA side of things and make it go further. Now there's a thing that removes the geofencing. You won't be allowed to do that.
One rocket, Bruce. Come on.
25 milliwatts.
I actually have a need for something Bruce mentioned there. I need to remove the geofencing from my Phantom 4 Pro and probably from my Mini. I actually need SDK. I need to completely remove all of that because
it's quite easy.
It's really annoying the bananas out of me.
Louis told me how
website,
to. Louis told me wherever he is.
Sorry, Louis.
Louis told me it's quite easy.
So yeah, I've been trying to fly in red zones where it just goes, you cannot unlock. It says you just cannot unlock. I cannot fly here, and I can because I'm allowed to. I've got permissions, but the system's just going, no, you can't, and then just swearing to it.
Nicola's got to go. Take care, Nicola. Look after yourself.
Yeah. By the way, everyone, Nicola's plane deal has expired now. When he leaves, his £80,000
his half price crashes has gone.
No, hasn't expired.
Oh,
it's year-round deal, that one. Yeah.
All right, mate. Look after yourself. Guys. We'll take care. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Michael's saying RG-Pilot open source. You're right. That is kind of one of the ways around these things. Yeah, but if they start looking,
we don't have a radio stack for RG-Pilot. We rely on radio stacks from others.
Peppermint Pilot saying no geofencing on Autel, but then if we look back up, I'm sorry, I forgot who said. I think it was John. He said that he'd heard that Autel are bringing in geofencing. Bomb.
Yeah. I mean, I did hear, and you guys might know better than me on this, that in America, if you've got your Part 107 and can prove to DJI you've got all your paperwork in place, you can get the geo zones removed. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if you've heard that or not. But yeah, it's like today wasn't too bad, but a couple of weeks ago now, I
You
just
just
needed
need the
to fly the
SDK.
Veggie.
I think, doesn't he, Louis? You just go and sign up to be a developer on the SDK and just run that, and there it goes.
There are ways around it, Mark.
I'm going to find.
Just cut the green wire.
But what I will say to that is, Louis, is it this one? Yeah. Louis convinced me to change the firmware on this stuff, because I never change the firmware on my radios. If it's working, it's working. And bloody Louis says, no, but get change it, better helicopter one, whatever. Took me ages to get this working properly again. So, you got to take what he says with a pinch of salt.
Okay. I don't like touching firmware myself, because when you've got something that works, it's like my Mini, the current update that's out there for the Mini, I have not done it.
Look at him.
This is on the old firmware.
It says you have to keep it up to date in the rigs.
I spent 2 hours sitting inside the car updating the firmware of my car. So guys, the firmware is good.
My old 1994 Toyota pickup, I have to actually use an RS-232 cable plugged into the glove box into my computer inside if I want to update the software in there. It's old school, mate.
It's Morse code.
Punch cards in the
punch cards. Yeah, absolutely. No, if it's flying, never update it. Never.
Yeah.
But again, that flies in the face of the some of the regulations where they're saying you must keep your firmware up to date. You must use the latest version where essential for for safety purposes. Where was that? I read that. Was one of the country's safety recommendations. Always keep your firmware up to date, and that's not a guaranteed safety.
No, in my operations manual, I won't update if the current firmware gets released, the new one gets released. People have problems on the web. I won't update. I always watch the forums for a couple of weeks. So this is why this one hasn't moved. I'm not on the current one. I'm on the older one because it works. Don't mess with what works.
No. You're missing so many nice features. Come on, my Mini 2 just does twists and rolls by itself. Come on.
And it's got full Pornhub integration.
So, yeah, no, I think it's important to keep the systems up to date. Okay, there are a few downsides to it, like, you get updated no-fly zones. You have to update not only the drone, but then you will have to go through all the batteries, because the worst thing that can happen to you is to get to the field and the drone, you start the drone and the drone says, sorry, I cannot fly with these batteries because they are not on the latest firmware. And you say,
well, funny enough, there's actually a bug with the Mavic 2 Enterprise Edition, new Enterprise Edition, where I've been flying with 6 or 7 batteries, and nearly every other battery will need an update, and then it also then says, I charge the battery, I bring it out again, go back to a second flight with that battery on the day. It goes, oh, firmware update me again, please, because it's out of sync. I've had that loads of times. So it's
now imagine if that happens and you have an M300 with let's say 8 sets of batteries, and you get to the field and the system says, no, I cannot use these batteries, please firmware upgrade. You get another pair, please upgrade. And then at the end you just tell the pilot, give up, connect to the internet and do all the updates on all the batteries.
And that's what we
were doing. Well, that's what we were doing with the Mavic 2 Enterprise Edition. We connect to the internet, we upgrade the firmware, but these batteries were not holding. So we did like 3 days flying. Over those 3 days, I reckon we did about 12 battery updates. It's ridiculous. Absolutely crazy.
This is so true. It's true. A snapshot drones, that's an interesting. Are insured if you don't update. That is interesting.
So we always used to teach update your firmware, because think of it like this: if you end up in, so worst case happens, you end up in court and you're in front of the judge And let's say you didn't do an update, but a bug caused the aircraft to crash and hit someone and sadly hurt them in worst case. Now, if you actually did an update and the same thing happened where you introduced the bug and it hit someone and the worst happened, you can stand in front of the judge and go, look, we tested it, it worked, it was an update that officially came out, so we updated as we should do, but X company introduced this problem into the aircraft. It wasn't our fault. Does that mean you've got a bit more of a cover there for yourself? You've got a bit more protection?
So it's about blame shifting, not prevention of problems.
Yes,
exactly.
You're in court. You're in the worst case scenario. You're going, well, we did everything in the updates. We followed everything, but it looks like the company that made the drone introduced this firmware bug issue, and it can now be seen. It's been happening to other people with the drones falling out the sky, or this problem or that problem. It's all been the same. Therefore, we did everything we should do. We checked it, but we didn't realise that this bug had been introduced until it was too late.
And then you read the end user license agreement that says all updates are provided on an as-is basis. It's a responsibility of the operator to prove they work satisfactorily, and you will have failed in that, so you'll still go down for a ton of bricks.
So that's why if you used open source code on your machine, you could have at least have a way of knowing what the testing is. Ask the people that created the code, do you have a testing regime? Can you show me the testing regime before you deployed it out into the wild on jobs? You try and reassure yourself to the best of your ability. That would have been a good, especially we can't have Richard on absolute speed dial, isn't it? Because that would have been a really good question for him to say where would stop. Maybe we need to try and remember that. And if you're watching, Richard, we need to get you in. And
it's probably a sound practice, because then the courts would work on the basis of reasonable expectations. And as the user of the software, you should be able to reasonably expect that they would have tested it sufficiently to allow for safe operation. I'm not a lawyer, but I do play one on the internet.
Doctors, lawyers, surgeon, everything. You'll be anything you want on the internet, can't you? You've got absolutely.
Anyone wants any brain surgery done, I'm your man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Look, we're definitely starting to waffle around. Are there any other big stories that we have seen this week? Going once.
We already spoke about that.
Oh, yes. I've got one story. Ian, the reason why Ian's not here tonight.
I wasn't going to mention that.
Well, they've got him. They've come after him. They've got him for complaining about all the drone stuff that he's been going on about.
Yeah. Well, he's somewhere in Wales. He's been spirited away to somewhere in Wales.
Purgatory. That's punishment enough.
It is Wales, being in Wales. What was the thing you'd seen, Louis?
No. I was going to comment on the back to the nature situation of Ian.
Yes.
So I'm sure he has some nice footage of his back to the nature situation.
I thought we'd all agreed that we weren't going to talk about Ian and that thing.
No.
Did you get that email from DJI putting out the contract on him? They offered me good money.
Yeah. No, he's done some, perhaps moved the needle a little bit.
Okay, but there's something important on the Autopilot side, and yesterday or day before yesterday, depending on your time zone, we had the first event of something that is important for us that try to make most of our equipment. And that is our benevolent dictator, Dji, did a session on log debugging, trying to understand what logs mean and trying to make heads and tails from all those log details that we can get and get the most out of your drones. It was a Zoom session and it's recorded and it is posted on Autopilot. If you really want to know something about how Dji's head works when he's trying to find out a bug or an issue that a user has, and I believe you heard it, Gary, that he has a directory of all the logs that people send him with over 3,000 logs.
3,000 of them. Yeah.
So That's something that's it's not very easy to do. I have my fair share of debugging and trying to find issues on logs, and usually I have I have a direct connection to Twitch. Can you look at this? I'm not making heads or tails of this. But yesterday's session was fantastic, and people should try to reach for it and have a look at it. It brings back the confidence that we have on the system and the ability of doing a nice setup of your vehicle. Even for those that don't use ArduPilot, it's for those that don't use ArduPilot, it's a nice explanation of the inner workings of the system. It's a good 2-hour session, and I would urge people that have some interest on how do things work to have a look at that.
Yeah, he always speaks many levels above my pay grade. Whenever I listen to Tridge, I'm just catching every fifth word or something. He's so clever. He's just so clever. It's unreal. But that is a great chat. It is a great chat. It is worth it. Yeah.
No,
and you'll find that on the ArduPilot YouTube channel, isn't it?
Yeah, it's there too. So we have things running, and that's a very nice session. And funny thing, this all started because the user asked for in the ArduPilot forums, can we have a session where you try to explain to us how to debug a log file? And it was such a good idea. And come on, we had 40 people online at some point during that Zoom call. So there was interest in that. And I'm sure, except for Paul Risenborough, that speaks with Twitch at the same level, we are all here, okay? But I believe that some of us managed to get a little bit up, and I have it tagged and I have it downloaded the Zoom session because I was one of the co-hosts. So I have it recorded. So it's something that I'll have to review and pick up different logs and try to understand with the explanations, trying to port that to other logs and try to understand. It's a very good learning resource.
And Ian's YouTube channel's Mad RC, isn't it? What is his YouTube channel now? Mad RC, isn't it? At Mad RC. XJet. Oh, that RC model reviews.
Yeah,
That's it.
RC reviews.
That's right. Yeah, and that's it. That's what it is.
I have a guest appearance sometimes.
No, look for
only when there's moaning and grizzling to be done.
No, Ian's channel. You just look crazy chair reviews.
Oh yes, so, just chair reviews.
Just look for the empty chair. That's him.
Yeah, that's it.
He does do it. I'm surprised he didn't
hasn't he now? That's all it'll be on there now. If we go there now, it'll just be his chair, won't it?
24-hour day live stream.
Live stream of his chair. That's what it'll be. Ian's on holiday. Hopefully having a nice time with his family.
I'm actually going to grab a picture of his empty chair thing, and I'm going to use it as a green screen, and I'm going to sit in his chair.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't join or leave a live stream of his empty chair, like you say. But he should have tried to join here and just leave his chair remote controlled, just linked in from home, and just have the chair there.
Would have been more impressive, if he had radio controlled it, so it swung around or so. Or he swung round, and we'd be expecting him to be
but not on a control line, eh?
Not a control line chair.
No, not a control line.
It's clear that you guys haven't been on many conference calls during the pandemic. I have such a nice collection of backgrounds.
We've seen them.
Make people now. Those are not the worst ones. You should see the ones from offices that I managed to come up. Oh God, it makes everybody crazy. So yes, getting some backdrops is easy these days.
Yeah. All right. And on that note, we must go. Gentlemen, Thank you very much. Dear viewers, wherever you're on the world, I hope you're being safe, hale, and hearty in this very, very, very weird time. It continues to get weirder, doesn't it? Even for dear old Bruce's
I'm locked down. I'm locked down.
He's
Oh,
locked down. I reckon we will be probably in the next couple of weeks, I think, again, because the Delta's going nuts. So just be careful out there, wherever you are in the world. Get the jab. It's just a little prick, as Bruce says. And
My wife keeps telling me.
That's right. We'll see you all again. 2100 GMT next week. Look after yourselves, everyone. Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye. 2 clicks. 1 click, 2 clicks.